Hey, this is Hunter Williams with the Awana Tennessee Network, and our goal is to produce content that's going to give you tips and ideas for how to better disciple your children and students through Awana. And I actually had a conversation today with Jamie Root. He's the Awana Missionary for Missouri, and he's got almost 40 years experience in Awana. And so I thought he'd be a perfect person to come on and chat with us today. And he actually shared some tips and insights with a method for doing Sparks ministry called Together We Move. Now, if you're new to Awana, Sparks is our kindergarten to second grade age group. And the Together We Move method is all about having your clubbers, your children, go at the exact same pace, whether that's with their scripture they're memorizing, their lessons, or their small group engagement, having them all go at the same pace and be in the same spot. And so with Jamie, he's going to give not only the practical benefits of that, but also the laser sharp focus on discipleship that this method can bring. So I'm going to key you in here on our conversation with Mr. Jamie. All right, Jamie, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you coming on to answer some of these questions and share more about different ways that we can best serve kids, especially this kindergarten to second grade age group. So thanks for coming on.
Well, you're very welcome.
Yeah, so you've had some time as a missionary. It seems like you've been around Awana for a long time. So I wanted, before we jumped into any of the content or anything, I wanted you to share just some of your favorite memories, maybe one or two, from being a missionary or serving in Awana. I think that'd be awesome to hear.
Went to a club visit. It's been a couple of years ago, and was able to visit with some Sparkies, share the gospel message, and all the things that come with a missionary's club visit role. Mm-hmm. And towards the end of the night, one of the Sparkies came over to me and was going to say thank you. And I lay down and said, "So what is your name?" His name was Thomas. I said, "Well, how do you like Sparkies?" And he said, "Well, this is the place I want to be forever." And it's like, "What do you mean, be forever?" And he was suffering from leukemia. So his forever was not going to be much longer. So he knew that in his Sparks Club, he was loved, he was cared for. He knew that God had a purpose for him, and his purpose was to be there. So I'll never forget that moment.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's what it's all about, right? That's why we do this, to be those loving, caring mentors for those kids and lead them to Jesus. So great story to segue into what we're talking about today. So for our listeners, for those watching, they might be new to Awana. Maybe this is their first year in it. So before we jump into this idea of the Move Together method with Sparks that I wanted to cover, I was going to ask if you could just kind of give a brief summary of what Sparks is and how it's typically ran. And then maybe we can get into some other stuff, but just kind of a quick summary.
So first I have to share that to me, Sparks is by far the best club. The others are a close second, tied for second, but Sparks is the best club. I was a Sparks director for many years. Just understanding that the purpose for Sparks, the curriculum, is all about biblical literacy. Sparky is learning the biographies and progression from Genesis all the way to Revelation in the kindergarten, first and second grades. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be very difficult to find anyone else that understands biblical literacy in that age other than a Sparky. And one of the most fantastic things about Sparkies is their age, and the reason why it's one of the best clubs is because as a kindergarten, first and second grader, they really haven't developed an attitude yet. And also they can go to the restroom by themselves. Double bonus.
Right.
So, but I really enjoy Sparks.
Yeah. And so, because I have a heart for Sparks too. That's actually where I came to Christ. Was a 7-year-old in Sparks. So I'm right there with you. I have a heart for it too. And it really does build that foundation of understanding Scripture and what it is. And so typically, when churches run Sparks, and I guess what you could call the traditional method, what did it typically look like night to night?
You'll have the small group, large group, and then game time.
Mm-hmm.
A small group is the intentional and impactful discipleship moment. This is when you have a leader or a caring adult that is working with a Sparky, developing not only understanding of the verses and the segments that you're going through, but also applying uh, meaning and the ability to apply what they're learning.
Yeah.
Then your large group is a teaching time, usually over a Bible biography and things dealing with understanding who is in the Bible.
Right.
And then your game time is that's your evangelism component. That's where the kids are having so much fun. It's very difficult for them to contain it everywhere they go.
Yeah.
They're going to share that with their friends. So why do you go to Awana? Well, we have fun. We get to run around circles. We get to do all these amazing things. Well, right now it's a little bit more difficult, but
Yeah.
typically we're having a lot of fun. And then your closing ceremony, where you're awarding the jewels and the patches and all the visual and all the celebratory things that goes along with earning and learning in Sparks.
So you had mentioned in that small group segment, that's that intentional discipleship moment. And that leads really to my next question, is asking, what is this moving together method and why is it a good method when it comes to discipling kids in this age group?
Yes. It in the past, and I'll be the first to admit, it was easy to become mechanical in the Sparks small group time, because it was so easy to say, okay, tell me the verse. Well, thank you very much. And then go on to the next clubber and tell me the verse. Okay, thank you very much. Then go on to the next clubber. Working together, you're moving from mechanical to ministry. You're working from just hearing a verse and using that handbook as an actual tool for discipleship.
Yes.
And one of the most wonderful things about Together We Move is including the parents more than ever before. Because I want, as an intentional discipler, I don't want to take that ministry away from the parents. I want to put that ministry in their lap and teach them how to use it. So we're all working on the same page. We're all working through the same devotional and disciples time. And we're all focusing on not only learning the verse, but building application. And no one's going to get left behind. We're all going to work together. And our intention is not to just finish the book, but equip for eternity. These verses will not fade. They will not weaken. They're going to be strong throughout their lives.
Yeah. And you're saying so many things that made me want to bring you on and talk about this, is because, when I was a clubber, it was, you got that vibe. It was all about how many verses can I say? Can I get through the book really fast? And you're right, it could become mechanical. You're just trying to chip away at this book. So for those maybe who are new, maybe in the past, what would happen with Sparks or any club in Awana really, where it got more about students could go at their own pace through the book, so they could be a mile ahead of another kid, and then you're in different lessons, and which that worked at the time. But as we're looking here and now, especially with Awana having this, putting their foot down and really diving into resilient discipleship, it's more than just how much can you say, how much can you finish. It's about, we really want to make sure we're all in this together, that we're discussing the same scripture, we're discussing the lesson, to go deeper than just facts, but to, like you said, apply it and to become that disciple, not just have head knowledge, but heart transformation. So you're saying all the stuff I love about it. So yeah, this Together We Move model, that's what it is. No matter if the kid's a newcomer or if the child coming has been in church for a long time, they're going through every lesson at the same pace. And even if you've got that one kid that excels, I mean, the beauty of it is that kid that excels can come alongside that child who's maybe slower or maybe new, and he can be that disciple maker, peer on peer disciple making, right? So just a lot of good stuff out of this. And beyond the discipleship piece of it, what are some practical benefits to this method of moving together at the same pace, the same lessons, and the same verses?
The one that you just mentioned, if you have a Sparky that is ministering to another Sparky, what a wonderful place to begin their lifelong ministry.
Mm.
This is teaching them the importance of serving, of being that person for another person, loving thy neighbor, and it's happening at a Sparks table. And one of the other aspects is it is so much less stressful for that discipler at the table because they know where they are, they know where they'll be next week, they know where they can start and stop and be able to share their passionate ministry and not just rote memorization.
Yes.
And the other aspect is just, you can create a calendar, and on that calendar have on the different dates showing where they will be in their handbooks.
Yeah.
So a parent can put that on their refrigerator and, we have horrible snowstorm coming. Not a problem. We're going to minister to you here, fulfilling our biblical obligation as a parent as we minister to you. Many times when I've encountered parents and asked them, so why do you not do ministry at home? They're going to say, well, I don't know how. Well, congratulations. We just taught you how.
Yeah.
Those are just some of the amazing things that take place when you have focus, intention, discipline, and discipleship.
Yeah. And the practical benefit you mentioned that stood out to me as a person, if I'm thinking of an Awana director or a parent, scheduling is so much easier with this method because you can start at the beginning of your ministry year, and every date until the end of that year, you can say, here's where we're at in the book, here's the verse we're covering. That way, if you got that kid that excels, he can look ahead, see where they're going. It just makes planning and teaching so much easier. And it's beautiful, like you said, how it takes a lot of pressure off the leader, and it can equip even the Sparkies around them on how to teach and disciple other Sparkies with them. And, I've seen churches use this method with both TNT and Sparks, where they're all going over the verse at the same time, where that way, if you've got a newcomer who's struggling, they would do memorization games and different things to have everyone be on the same pace. And I guess one last thing I'd say too, I know I've had some people, and you can maybe speak more to this, I've had some people say, well, what if my student gets really, or what if my child gets really bored? Because they could easily memorize multiple verses, they've got the time, they got the capacity for it. And I know Sparks, it provides extracurricular things you can do. So you could still have the, Together We Move method where you're on the same lesson, but maybe they've got those, is it the extra flyer miles that they can get as a Spark where it's extra verses and extra things they can do? So even on top of that one lesson, there are extra things we can provide. And I don't know if you have any other comments on that, but just for maybe the parent or the leader who says, but what about my whiz kid who can just memorize, he almost has like a photographic memory. What do we do for those kids during this method?
One of the most phenomenal things that Awana has come out with is the Sparks Leaders Handbook.
Yes.
In that handbook, there's actually discussion questions. So if you have that Sparky that has, I often say, I encounter Sparkies that shortly after they cut the umbilical cord, they recite John 3:16.
Yeah.
So if you have that Sparky, it's not a one and done. They can be part of the discussion.
Yes.
They can, and some of the most intelligent and philosophical things I've ever heard has come out of the mouth of a Sparky. and primarily is because they're not ashamed to share.
Yeah.
So having that accelerated or a student that is excelling, it's not a one and done. They get to continue to participate, not only with, as you said, peer to peer, but being part of a discussion, an intentional discipleship chat, and providing their knowledge and wisdom, and not just, I don't have anything against handing a Sparky a coloring page and crayons during this time, but I would rather have them participating in the overall ministry, being able to be a part of a discussion, and for who knows, this may lead to them not only knowing the gospel, but not being ashamed to share the gospel, because we have worked with them to build that confidence, to build that influential presence, that they do not need to be ashamed of what they say and what they do.
Yeah. And you said something, as we're wrapping up, you said something that was actually part of my story. So I was a very hyperactive kid, but I also had a really good memory. So Sparks, I could get those verses in and out, and I would get bored. I was high energy. So what my leaders did, and it's exactly what you're speaking to, my leaders would actually have me be a helper who taught the lesson. They say, Hunter, act this out. Hunter, how would you say this? What does this verse mean? And so, I love the new Sparks Leader Guide, because it can push these kids who maybe excel more to have that more group approach. Because the thing about living in America is we have an individualistic idea a lot of times of church and things, where what am I getting out of it? How am I growing? What am I doing? But what this does, it says there's more than you. There's these other Sparkies around that you can have discussions with. You can help learn this. And so, just so many beautiful benefits and ways to grow in this method. So I'm super thankful you decided to come on and share those with us today. Now, I did want to ask you before you left, do you by chance have a sample calendar that can maybe give leaders an idea of what it looks like to, if they were to do the, Together We Move method and wanted to plan out the year? Do you have a sample calendar that could show that?
Absolutely. You want me to share my screen?
Well, actually, what I'll do is if you send me that link, I'll put it in the notes of the episode. And that way people can just grab it. It gives them an idea. Because, I'm kind of a visual learner too. So being able to see that's super helpful. So, we'll add that in the notes. And I'll also give a link to that new Sparky Leader Guide, because Jamie's right. That's one of the best things Awana's made. It gives you tips on how to teach verses, discussion questions. Really, the heart of discipleship is behind it, so it's beautiful. Well, Jamie, thank you so much for this. This was really helpful for me, and I know it's going to benefit a lot of people. And just thankful for your ministry and wanting to serve the church, even if it's outside of your state. So I appreciate you, Jamie, and hopefully we'll get to do this again.
Yes, you're very welcome.
All right. Well, take care, Jamie. We'll talk to you again soon.